This coming Shabbos, there's no special week. It's a regular Shabbos, even though we have now the four Parshios, Parsha Shkolim, Parsha Zohar, Parsha Zochodesh, all these things, Parsha Basagodol. This coming Shabbos, there's a pause, so there's a regular week. So we will revert back to our regular topic of Tefillah, preparing for Tefillah. And we're learning generally the Baal Shem Tov. Now, because the Baal Shem Tov, and we know a lot of Hasidus put a lot of effort into davening, because it's a very spiritual experience, and that's what Hasidus is all about, living a spiritual kind of life, more emphasis on the spirituality than on the physical. But it's very, very interesting that we didn't have to have only the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov came, I guess, along in history because there was a weakness that had to be strengthened in the world, and Hashem sent the Baal Shem Tov for that purpose. Now, if you want to see, was the Baal Shem Tov a Machadesh? Was he somebody who was making new inroads that didn't exist before him? Well, if we'll take a look at the sheets that you have in front of you, we're going to read something very, very interesting. This is from the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is way, way before the Baal Shem Tov. Shulchan Aruch is written approximately in the 1500s. Baal Shem Tov was, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, not exactly. 1500s. Now you're missing one page, one line. You have the second page, and the secretary is not here in the office, so I couldn't get it, photographed. But I'm going to read to you just one line before you start the page that you have in front of you. Just listen to this line. What is a person's mindset? What is his attitude supposed to be before he starts Mona Esrei? Okay? This is the Shulchan Aruch. It's not the Baal Shem Tov. These are the following. Yachshov ki'ilu hoya medaber lifnei melech basar. Imagine that you have now an audience with a powerful king in the world, or let's say some great prime minister, powerful one. You would first of all write out what you have to say. You would have it organized. And you would have a great deal of concentration and focus. So because you don't want to make a mistake. You don't get this opportunity all the time. You only have it once in a while. So if you're having once in a while, you make sure that you do it right. So that's if you're talking to a regular mortal person. You're talking to the master of the world who has life and death in his fingertips. Not only for you, for the entire world. But not only is he listening to the words that you say, he is also looking deeply into your mind and to your heart as you say it. Remember that. When you go to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you stand Shmona Esrei, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu 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 Elokeinu, say all the words, and you say them very clearly. But where is your mind at the time that you're saying those words? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking, Choker Kol Machshavos. Now listen to these words. V'kach hoyu osim chasidim v'anshei ma'aseh. The early generations, the Hasidim, not the ones that wear Streimelach and kapotas and white socks and all the gartlach. They didn't have those things all the way back when they had the real Hasidim. That's only a modern kind of expression of Hasidus. The real Hasidim dressed like everybody else dressed. What made them Hasidim was the way they lived their lives, what was going on in their minds. And not only could they call Hasidim, Anshe Maisa. What did they do before they went to daven? Hoyu Mizbodedim. First of all, they set themselves aside. They didn't hang around with the boys. They wanted to make sure that they're doing it right, so they would go off to a corner or stay in some isolated place where they can get into a proper mood, concentrate. Mizbodedim, they'd be alone. And they had strong kavanas. Now the page in front of you, Rabbi Sai. Look at the page in front of you. Ad shahoyu magiyim lehispashtus hagashmius. Do you hear that? What he says there? They got so into the spiritual realm. They wanted to detach themselves totally from this world. Because you're talking about some kind of an existence that is indescribable, who can see right into you. And you have to do it right. And you have to think right and feel right. There's no fooling around. You can't put on an act. It doesn't work. Ulis gabrus koch hasikli, you hear? Ulis gabrus koch hasikli, they would strengthen the intellectual side of themselves, putting full focus. You know, sometimes you say, you look at a person, and all of a sudden, you see the veins on his forehead are bulging. All of a sudden, the veins on his forehead are bulging. Why is that? Why is that so? Because he's focusing, he's concentrating, and all the blood is focusing in his mind, and therefore the veins on his forehead bulge. And this is what they did before they would start Shmona Esrei. These people who took seriously and understood what it means to communicate with the Creator, the Master of the world, they wanted to make sure that they were on the highest possible level, as close as they can get. And therefore their bodies became sort of like something that you're unaware of. You're completely detaching yourself from your body. You're putting all of your concentration into the mind. And he said they got to a point where they sort of detached themselves from the physical existence. His garbage called Chaseichel, and look at what he says. You megiyim karov l'maylas hanavua. Can you imagine? I don't even understand what that means, nevuah. They got so high, they almost reached the level of nevuah. Now, what does nevuah mean? Prophecy. And prophecy means, we know that our neviim, or we're told about our neviim, all of them, as far as I know, except for Moshe Rabbeinu, they had to be in a trance, or while they were in a sleep, they would have a dream of some kind, where, because the physical body, if it's active and it's fully potent, it doesn't allow for the spiritual, for the intellectual side to be so outstanding. And that's what you need. You need that outstanding side of you in order to be really connected. So these people were doing that, and all the Nevi'im, they couldn't be, the only one who was on such a high madrega was able to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu like a Navi, Pe'el Peh, because he was such a high madrega. It was like a Malach Elokim, Moshe Rabbeinu. He can't understand what it means to be able to get in the Nevuah and to be standing and talking like everybody else. Pe'el Peh, Adaber Bo. The Torah says it. Torah says it. He spoke to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Pe'el Peh, Adaber Bo, like everybody else. Every other Navi had to be in a kind of a trance. He could not be standing up. It's too powerful. The body could not take it. The body had to be totally relaxed. He'd be lying down, and then when his mind is focused properly, then he could have the nevuah. But his body was not functioning. It had to be at rest, relaxed. So he says, these Hasidim, these Anshe Maisa, before they started the daven, they wanted to get as close to that as possible. They couldn't reach it mamish because the Nevi'im we don't have anymore today. Even in the time of the Shul, early, they didn't have Nevi'im. It's not that something that you see, you go to the store and you buy a Navi. A Navi is one person in millions. You have a one Navi. Each generation has one person who's a Navi. 2 people, whatever it is. But these people who are davening, they wanted to get as close as they could to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They tried as best as they could to come to that level where they're really, really connected mentally, and that means that the body has to be sort of in the background. You sort of forget about it. Forget about the body. And they got, these Hasidim, they got Korov, the Maal HaNevuah. Now, what happens when a person is doing that? Now, let's think about our tefillahs today that we have. We go to shul, we have a tefillah b'minyan. Anything what we just read over here now has no application at all. Nothing, nowhere near what we just read. And this is in the Shulchan Aruch. This is not in the Chassidus or in Kabbalah. This is the Shulchan Aruch. This is the way you're supposed to daven. So what does it mean? It means that what we're doing today has to be corrected. It has to be corrected. Now, I would say, how much of a correction can you do it, given the circumstances that we live in? What can you do? What can you do? Well, first of all, what you can do is you have to come earlier than you normally come. That's the first thing. You have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself time. You cannot do it and be a speed davener. It doesn't work. It does not work. You have to come earlier, give yourself time, and say the word slowly. And if you don't understand the Hebrew, look at a translation so that the words have meaning for you and you can take them into your heart and put your emotions into it and feel the words, what you're expressing to Hashem. That's number one. Number two, in your lead up to Shmona Esrei, you have to get somewhere closer in the spiritual or in the intellectual, in the spiritual realm. You cannot just start Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael and that's it. Before you actually say the first Baruch, you have to stand there quietly and be thinking and meditating and think about this. You're now going into a higher realm. So it's like you have been building this up. When you come to shul and you say, well, you have to say your brachas at home, or you say brachas at shul, you're at the lowest level. You have the karbanos, the ketores, all that. That's all in the lowest level. That's called olam ha'asiyah. That's the practical world where you do things. You bring karbanos. You bring ketores. You're doing things. From Baruch Shamar on, you're now in a higher level. That's called the olam of Yitzira. You're slowly building yourself up. After you get from Baruch Hu, Birchas Kriya Shema, you're now in the olam of Bria, where you're closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Means creation, spiritual creation takes place there. And then when you say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael, and you start to Shmona Esrei, you're at the high point. This is what you've been building yourself up to from the very beginning. Asiya, Yitzira, Bria. Now you're in called the Olam of Atzilus. Now you're in that special palace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Before you enter into that, you have to stand at the door and think, I'm now going to talk verbally, face to face with the Borei Olam. And he knows exactly what's going on inside my mind and inside my heart. And I have to do that as excellent as I can. That's how you, so you don't start exactly with everybody else. So they're starting before you, but you're standing there and you're contemplating and you're meditating. And after you feel that, okay, you're standing there half a minute, I'm now ready. So then, Baruch, and then you start the Shmona Esrei. that I would say would put you on a madrega 1,000 times higher than everybody else in the shul. You are now doing as much as you can, given the circumstances that we live in. We want to daven together with a minyan. We want to have a tivoli b'tzibur. Okay, so you start a little bit later than them, but at least you're making the effort. And don't forget, again, this is what he said the Hasidim did, the Anshe Maisa did. But they did it when they were alone and they went off to a corner and they got to almost the level of Nevuah. They're completely detached from the world. We can't do that. But we can detach ourselves from the rush and or the pressure of what's going on in shul. That we can do. We just stand there and we think before I'm talking to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, Melech Moshe Amlochem. He knows what's in my heart, knows what's in my mind. I want to be at least doing it respectfully. Making this effort to do it the right way. And I have to be in a world where I'm not looking to the right, not looking to the second, not worried about what's going on in back of me, in front of me. I'm talking only to the Borei Olam. That's all I want to know. And I don't have to finish in time to hear Kedusha or to hear Kaddish. Once I start, I'm out of it. I didn't come to shul for Kedusha. I came to shul to daven. That's the main reason. You have to understand, we have main points and we have auxiliary or subordinate points. It's very important to say Kedusha. Very important to answer Kaddish. Very important. But you didn't come to shul for that. You could stay outside and answer Kedusha and Kaddish too. You came to shul to daven. So do it. Yes.
What do you do if there's events are unfolding and you're looking for a prayer to respond to the events? So, for instance, I think the United States has declared war on Israel. Kamala Harris is saying we're supporting Hamas. They're invading our airspace now, and they want to build. They want to take over the waterways too. So I was looking for a prayer. How do I respond to this?
Well, I would say, before you start the Shemona Esrei, look through each bracha and see which one of those brachas would be most appropriate for this particular thing.
I haven't found.
No, you have found.
You have the
crushing and extirpating.
You have Re'enu Avanyenu, Rivo Rivenu, fight our battle for us. Golenu Gula Leman Shemecha, Gula Shlema. Right after Slach Lanu, you have a bracha there. Hashem said, "Fight our battle for us." You have Es Tzemach David asking for Mashiach to come. Kivshewasno Kivin Kol Hayom, and in Shema Kolenu, that's open for anything. You could stick into Shema Kolenu anything you want. There are plenty of places. Yisim Shalom Tova Uvrocha. The end of Shemona Esrei. We're asking for peace. We want Shalom. Bracha, Chaim, Chayin, V'Chesed. Plenty of places in Shemona Esrei we can take care of all the events in the world. Plenty of them. And it's, again, Shema Kolenu is open for everything. And then when you come to those brachas in Shemona Esrei, you hear Reb Chena, concentrate on them. Don't run through it. Concentrate and say it. You can say it more than once. Say it twice and think about it. Meditate on it. Don't let it, if it's something which is important to you, don't let it pass by so fast. So as I said again, as we said before, if you come to shul to pray to God, so come to shul and pray. Don't worry about the shliach tzibur starting you. So let him start. You continue your Shemona Esrei. That's what you came for. So you won't make you'll do Kedusha another time.
But you have to do. You have to do Shema. Should that be done in unison?
It's much better if everyone does it together. Shema, yes. Shema, yes. But after the Shema,
Okay.
The Shema is like the lead up to the Shemona Esrei. Once you did the Shema, with everyone together. So that's a declaration. We are, declaring Hashem Echad, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's wonderful. But afterwards, when you have to speak to him personally on an individual basis, that's something else already. That's not together. You have to. You should be able to start together, but if you can't, because you have to prepare yourself beforehand mentally. So they start Agal Yisrael Shmona Esrei, and they don't think. I can tell you one thing: if you'll do it, and you're consistent doing it, just by your doing it, you will influence other people. You don't have to say a word; they'll be looking at you, they're seeing, noticing you. What's he doing over there? What's going on? Start thinking about you. What are you doing? What's it take you so long? What's it? You don't have to say anything. You have to say anything. You'll see just by your presence, you will have a very positive influence on other people. Let's see what it says further. Second line. Tzorach sheyachshov b'dvarim hamachniim halev. You hear that? You should think before you actually start that. No, excuse me, I skipped a line. Second line. Im tavo lo machshava acheres. If with all your preparations, and you really tried hard, all of a sudden comes in another thought. So first of all, you should be very upset with yourself. If something else comes into your mind after you did all that kind of preparation, that means you didn't do enough. You didn't prepare yourself enough. Because if you really prepared the way it's supposed to be, nothing will enter your mind. But if it happens, don't give up the ship. Don't say, okay, I failed. I might as well just go through it. No. So what do you do? First of all, you have to be honest and sincere and respectful. Do not go on with the words. Many people will do that. They know the Shemona Esrei by heart. If something comes into their mind, so it comes in. They're saying the words. They're going through it. Don't forget, it's the mind and the mouth have to be in unison. If your mind is someplace else, your mouth cannot go on by habit to say it. Yishtok. And in other words, you've got to be in control of yourself all the time. You cannot just live by habit. When you're standing in front of God, you have to be in total focus. And if something all of a sudden comes into your mind at that time, in the middle of Shemona Esrei, you should say, hey, what am I doing? I got to stop. I got to collect myself, take myself in hand, get it out of my mind, and then I continue. When my mind is cleared from all that narishkeit, all that stuff, that's disturbance, after I clear that in my mind, now I can go further. Then you continue on with the words. Yishtok, and it says, you have to be silent until that extraneous thought, it vanishes. V'tzorach sheyachshov, now we're continuing on at the end. Tzorach sheyachshov, b'dvarim hamachniim halev. Before you start, you have to think of things which will give you humility. Think of things which will bring you closer to Hashem. Just think about His majesty. Think about all the universe, all the stars that He has made, the billions and billions of stars that exist, and you are like a speck of dust, and you have the ability to talk to Him. How much do you take up in the universe? How much does any one person take up in the entire universe? It's less than a drop in the ocean. Less than a drop in the ocean. And you have the ability to talk, and you will make an influence. Wow, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You can't even imagine. If you think about it in the larger picture, what is one person in the entire universe? It's nothing. And nevertheless, we have some kind of impact. We have an impact. The Am Yisrael is very, very unique, very, very special. We have a special impact in spite of the fact that if we look at the entire universe and look at the percentage of what we take up in the universe, And we have, look at the literature we have in thousands of years. And this is built up, and this is not by people who are just, fly-by-night people. These are people who are serious people, intelligent people. And they're going along with this whole thing. This whole thing is something very, very, very unusual about Am Yisrael. But the human being, wow. So this is what you have to do before you continue on davening. Be humble yourself in the presence of the Creator. Don't think of things which are, you're still in control. You can decide what you want to think of. Here he says, look at that. Before you start davening, think about the loftiness of Hashem. Ubeshiflus ha'adam, and the lowliness in comparison to the huge majesty of Hashem. What are we compared to that? The creator of the entire universe. Where do we stand? V'yasir kol ta'anugi ha'adam alibo. Get rid of all thoughts of the self. Get rid of all thoughts of the self. Now here is interesting how the Shulchan Aruch brings in his halacha. Listen to this. This is amazing. How he sticks it in here at this place. Listen to what he says. Look at this in the small print. For asur la'adam lenashek banav hakatanin bebeis hakneses. You hear that? He puts that in here. A person is not allowed to give a kiss to his young children in a shul. Isn't that amazing? Person brings a young father, he's married a few years, he brings his kids to shul with him to train them, to give his wife a rest a little bit, he brings the kids to shul. So sometimes you have to comfort them. So you cannot do this in shul. You cannot give a child a kiss in shul. Why? Why? Not for him, for yourself. When you're in God's chatzer, when you're in His living room, there is no other focus except Hashem. You cannot give your child a kiss in shul. Halacha in Shulchan Aruch, and it's interesting that it brings it over here by Shmon Esrei.
So wouldn't that be an expression of gratitude, though, Rabbi? Kissing of a child.
Take him outside the shul, express it outside, not inside Hashem's parlor. You don't do it inside, you do it outside the shul, not inside. That's also training for the child too. He will know that in shul you will never kiss him because your ava is directed to Hashem, not to anybody else. You have to keep the child calm. You have to make sure he doesn't make noise. Yes. But to express love to a child, when you have to have your love focused totally on Hashem, it's incompatible. It doesn't work. Okay, let's take a look now. Some practical advice. Let's look down below in the Mishnah Berurah. Look on the same page. Same page down below in Mishnah Berurah. Over there, second line, it says, Yishtok. Be silent. If a thought comes into your mind, so be quiet for a minute, control yourself, get it out of your mind, and then go on. Look what he says. He's giving it now practical advice. U'b'sefer Hagan, kosav, levatel machshava ra b'shas hatfilah. Listen to this. He has given you a skula. If you want to make sure that you have no thoughts in your mind, or if they come, what do you do to get rid of them? Yomar gimel pomim. Fi. You hear that? Fi. Say, you're in the middle of Shmona Esrei. You're in the middle of Shmona Esrei. And these thoughts come into your mind. One of the ways to get rid of the thoughts is to say, Fi. And he says, V'hu Roshei Tevos, Palti Yosef. Palti Yosef is Pei Yud. Palti Yosef. Deheim is Gabru al Yetzer Liba. These people were misgaber on the Yetzer. In other words, you say the fi, you are arousing that koach from the Rashi Tevos of Palti Yosef Peyud. Because there's a Sanhedrin comes in the Gemara. Look what he says. Yarok Gimel Pamim V'lo Yarok Legamri Rak B'derech Nachas. And he gives you specific directions. V'aloshon Tehei Bein Svosayim B'shas Harikika. He's telling you to spit out a drop with the tongue between your lips so that not a large amount of saliva will come out. A drop. This is so weird. You're in the middle of Shmona Esrei, and you realize these thoughts come into your mind. Stop davening. Stop davening. You have this ammunition in the back to help you get rid of the thought. You say fi, and you have a drop of saliva in between the lips, with your tongue in between the lips to hold it, make sure that too comes out. You spit out onto the floor for a second, a drop. That's not necessary, it won't be recognizable, it won't be noticed. And this is a way of getting rid of the thoughts. It's a skula. That they were people who were misgaber on their hearts, on their emotions, with their minds. Okay, that's what it says in that sefer. However, he says, because of Magen Avraham, ain't merely lasoze betoch tefillah shmona esrei. He says, even though that might be understood that you should do that in the middle of Shmona Esrei, the Magen Avraham, a later commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, says, I don't think that should be done in the middle of Shmona Esrei, not in the middle. The Havi Hefsik, that's considered to be like a pause in your tefillah. And he's questioning. He doesn't know if it's going to help 100% anyway. So where does he say you should do it? He says, do it before you start Shmona Esrei. That's what he means to say. Before you say, Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael, say, fi, spit down on the ground for a drop of saliva, mamash, a drop that's not noticeable, to get your mind cleared, and then you start the Shmona Esrei. This is what Magen Avraham wants to suggest. Don't do it in the middle of Shmona Esrei. Okay. Let's go on. In the Mishnah Berurah below. Ubesefer Eliorah behevi b'shem Kitzur Shla. The Shla was Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz, one of our great leaders in the past. About the same time as the Shulchan Aruch was written, a little bit later, maybe a little bit. V'zel Sholno Zgula lahavir machshavas chutz shekodem atfila Yavir Gimel Pamim Yad Yemino Al Mitzcho. You hear this? Before you start Shmona Esrei, in what you have said already, Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael, take your hand, Gimel Pamim, your right hand over your forehead, wipe your forehead 3 times. 3 times. What does it say further? V'yomar b'chol pam leiv tahor broli Elohim. Baruch nachon chadesh b'kirbi. You're asking, before you start the Shmona Esrei, you ask Hashem to help you. Leiv tahor, chadesh b'kirbi, leiv tahor, chadesh b'kirbi, leiv tahor, broli Elohim. Baruch nachon chadesh b'kirbi. Leiv tahor, broli Elohim. You ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create for you now a new heart. A heart that is free of all extraneous emotions, extraneous thoughts. Create it for me now. And give me the proper spirit. So this is very interesting. Normally you would say, between Gal Yisrael and Shmona Esrei, you're not allowed to make any, you can't answer Kedusha, you can't do anything. But this you could say. Why? Because this is considered to be like an introduction to the Shmona Esrei. It's like an addition to Hashem's Zvay Tiftach. It's an extra pasuk of introduction to the Shmona Esrei, which you're permitted to say because it is part of your preparation to be able to daven properly.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Is this to say, to grow the attribute of Gevurah?
Well, in a sense, you might say that you're strengthening the gvura, because you're using gvura to, it's something powerful to overcome your emotions that you might be having at the time, or all kinds of feelings. You want to make sure that you're in total control. So ask Hashem, Leiv tahor, Roli Elokim, give me a pure heart. V'ruach nachon, and give me the proper spirit. Chadesh b'kibi, introduce something new into my heart. So this is, in a sense, using gvura to overcome any negative influence or something which would be distracting to you in the Shemona Esrei. This he said you should do before you start the Shemona Esrei. So again, 3 times you put your hand over your head, put your hand over your head, and you say the pasuk, Leiv tahor b'ra Elokim, v'ruach nachon chadesh b'kirbi. So if you want to know how to do that, you take a piece of paper, and everybody, as I said before, many times, everyone should really have the same siddur every single day. Means your own siddur. Or you ask the Rabbi, I want to buy a siddur from the shul. I want it to be my siddur, so that you can write notes and reminders into the siddur. Your whole purpose is to daven properly. Davening properly requires all kinds of efforts. This would be one of the efforts. Either you have a piece of paper, an insert that you keep in the Shemona Esrei, in the siddur, or you write into the siddur on the side, in the margins, you write the reminders. This is one of the things that you could do if you have your own siddur. But if it's the shul siddur, so you have no right to write on the shul siddur, unless you get permission. But it's better to have your own siddur. Much better. Okay. So he says further, this is what you're supposed to be doing before Shemona Esrei. V'chein im balo machshavas chutz b'toch hatfila, yishtok ma'at v'yavi yaminu al mitzcho v'yaharer pasuk hanal. So in the middle of Shemona Esrei, he said it's not proper to do that again. But what you can do in the middle of Shemona Esrei, if it happens, you stop davening for a moment, try to get yourself back on track, and run your hand over your forehead 3 times, and think of that pasuk that you said beforehand. Leiv tahor b'ra Elokim, v'ruach nachon chadesh b'kirbi. So if you want to make sure that you know the pasuk, you could say it over during the day while you're walking in the street. It's always good to ask Hashem to give you a leiv tahor, a pure heart. You don't have to have it only by davening. You always should have a pure heart. Ruach nachon chadesh b'kirbi. So you'll know it Baal Peh because you're saying it during the day a few times. But if you, at the very least, have it on a piece of paper or write it in the margins of your siddur, so that you have it there right there in front of you. So he says to use it either before the Shemona Esrei has started, and if it happens again during Shemona Esrei, the thoughts enter your mind, you are in control. That's the point. You have to be in control. Do not live by habit, and yet the words just keep on going, and you finished 3/4 of the Shemona Esrei, and you say, "Oi, I wasn't mechaven in all the brachas," and it's too late already. You can't go back. You can't go back.
Why not?
Because, see, this is where the Baal Shem Tov comes in. If you go back and you repeat the words, what are you saying by doing that? You're saying that Hashem was not there in those words. And that's not true. Because if Hashem wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to say the words to begin with. So what the Baal Shem Tov says, if you get to towards the end of Shemona Esrei and you realize you were doing it habitually and you weren't mechaven, so he says, go back to that place, from the place where you think you lost it at that point, and rethink the words, but not to say them again. Look into the siddur, read them over again in your mind, rethink the words, and now have kavanah, because otherwise it is disrespectful. You said, I said the words, and you weren't there at all, Hashem. So I mean to say, you said the words without Hashem giving you the koach. You couldn't say the words if He didn't give you the koach. You don't want to cancel out Hashem's presence at all. So the words that you said have some life to them, but they're lacking the moach. They're lacking the lave. Okay? So go back and give them the moach and the lave by thinking the words over again, and the thoughts and the emotions that you put in now will attach themselves to the words that you already said, and now it'll be a completed job.
But you can also, I think we discussed this, you can pay attention during the repetition.
Well, it's not as good. Don't be. This is something. It's very, very personal. Davening is a very, very personal, entity. You can't be samech on others. You can't be samech on others, and you don't know what the Baal Tefillah is thinking all either. Better do it yourself. Not better be samech on others. Okay. All right, let's go further, a little bit further in the Shulchan Aruch in front of us. In Sif Beis, in the Shulchan Aruch, up on top there, Sif Beis, Lo yispalel b'mokom sheyesh davar shemavatel kavanaso, v'lo b'sha'a hamavatelis kavanaso. So you have to be very careful that you have to pick a place and a time where you know that there will not be disturbance, there'll be quiet. Let's say you're standing next to a window, and the window's open, and outside there's a lot of noise. That's, of course, disturbing. Close the window. Before you start smoking, close the window. Or make sure, when any kind of distractions there might be around at the time, make sure you minimize them as much as possible. Or if there's no help, find another place to daven. That's all. I mean, there's no way out of it. This is part of your preparation. Now listen to what he says here, the next line. As far as this is concerned, says the Shulchan Aruch himself, V'achshav, now in our time, says the Beis Yosef, Ein anu nizharin b'kol zeh, we're not so adamant about all these things, mipnei she'ein anu mechavdim kol kach b'tfilah. We don't have the ability to get to this level that he's talking about, where you're almost at the level of Nevuah. That's true. But we have the Baal Shem Tov who says you have to do your maximum. To get to the level of almost being a Navi, completely detached from the physical world, that we don't have the koach. That not. But to do like the Baal Shem Tov says, we do have the koach. That we do have. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu sent us the Baal Shem Tov a few hundred years ago, because there was a need. Anything that happens in the world is planned out specifically and at the right time and the right place. And when Hashem gave the Baal Shem Tov to the world, it was necessary at that time. The world needed chizuk and tefillah. And therefore we follow the Baal Shem Tov to help us along, and he's giving us many, many good eitzes. And we've been learning him for a couple of years already. And Baruch Hashem, I could tell you myself, I had this sefer that we're using, Baal Shem Tov. This Baal Shem Tov is on all the parshas of the Torah. And I used to look at it, I have it in my library at home, and I used to open it up once in a while to see there's something on the parsha. And I never paid attention to the fact that in Parshas Noach, he has an entire section on Tefillah. He calls it Amud HaTefillah. All the pages that we're using from the Baal Shem Tov come from that. So 10 years ago, I decided I'm going to read it. I'll see what he has to say. I tell you, Rabbi Sai, I was in shock. I was in shock. After reading what he wrote, I said, what have I been doing my entire life? I had the good fortune. My father took me to shul when I was 2 years old. On Shabbos, of course. 2 years old, he took me to shul, and I remember getting candies from the man in front of me. That's what I remember. But I was in shul from 2 years on. Now, I've always been in shul. And I appreciate, understand people who haven't been in shul their entire lives and they're newcomers. I appreciate that very much and give them a lot of credit for that. And I've been in yeshivas for my entire life. But I was never taught the real understanding of davening until I learned the Baal Shem Tov. This was when I was approximately 70 years old. That's right. 70 years old. And I started to learn it.
I have
And
3 months. I have 3 months.
I give a share other places, and I told the Talmidim there about my experience. All men like you, grown men, mature men, they've been through the thing. They said, well, we also want to learn it. So I started to teach it. And I tell you, Rabbi Sai, I'm teaching it ever since. And my tefillah is not the same as it used to be. My davening in the morning, I don't put it all the effort in Mincha and Ma'ariv like I put it in the morning. My morning I put in my main effort. And Shmona Esrei takes me approximately 20 minutes. I can't do it in less. Can't do it in less. If you do it properly, it takes time. It just takes time. So I end later than everybody else. So what? So I end later. But I know that I, did something that I came to shul for. Daven. In many places, there's one Esrei is 2-3 minutes. That's it. What can you think of in 2-3 minutes? You can hardly say the word. Just it's a big mumbling. That's all it is. So Rabbi Goldberg, the Chabad shliach for this area, asked me a number of years ago, would you like to give shir here? He says, okay, b'simcha rabbah. He says, why do you want to give shir in? I said, how about tefillah? According to the Baal Shem Tov. Excellent, very good. That's how it started, 2-3 years ago. By the way, you should know that the Chabad bought an apartment in Rechavia.
You'll be our new neighbor.
That's right. On my floor, in my building, that's going to be the new Merkaz of Chabad.
Door is always open.
Right next door to me. Mamish, all I have to do is walk out the door and it's right there. Same floor. Same floor. It's 5 minutes away from here. That's going to be the new place for davening, for all their events, everything. I don't know what's going to be here, but this is still. I still going to keep the office. I don't know what's going to be here, but that's going to be their new place. It's going to be much larger because he told me like,
How much larger is it than this?
Well, it's a 5-room apartment. It's a regular apartment in Rechavia. It has 5 rooms. They knocked down all the walls, so they're knocking down all the walls. So they'll have a big place there for for davening, for events and all that. And that's what it is. I don't know. So they're hoping already because they're advertising on the folders that's going to have the Megillah reading there. So
There'll be time. There'll need time.
every hour.
I have an anecdote for you because I've been to most of them Chabads in this 770 meter circumference. But I go a lot of afternoons to the National Library study, and they have a.
Where is that? Where is it?
Across from
Next to the Knesset. I was there just the other day. It's amazing. You should go.
A Chabad library?
No. It's a national.
Oh, the National Library. Yeah.
The architecture is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have Minka. I have to tell you, it's the most peaceful place in Jerusalem. And if you want to take 20 minutes, nobody's going to say anything.
All right.
They would get a minion. I don't know what new socket is yet, but they didn't change it as the biblical language. But
I didn't know they had a shul.
Good. Very good. Where is it?
So
Where is it? Where you say it is? Where is it? Across the
Right next to the Knesset.
Yeah. The reason I brought that up is that might be my better Shemona Esrei of the day.
It's located on Seabrook, Reuben.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reuben?
In Kaplan.
So, Rabbi,
Yes.
in prayers, is it appropriate to curse the enemy?
You don't have to curse the enemy. It's all the words that you need to put down the enemies are in the Shemona Esrei. It's all there. You don't have to add anything. It takes care of all of our needs. It's all in the brachas of Shemona Esrei already. You don't have to add anything. If you want to add personal things, you can add in Shema Koleinu. Yeah, all right, we have another 5 minutes, so let's look at the next halacha here. Now this is important. Gimel, number Gimel. Yispalel derech tachnunim. Kirosh hamavakesh Pesach ubenachas when you're davening to Shemona Esrei, you have to do it in a supplicating way. Like a poor person who's coming to the door, knocking on the door, and asking, alms for the poor. Can you give me a handout for Shabbos, whatever it is? That's how you come to daven and come to Kodesh Baruch Hu. You have to realize, who are you? You might be a multimillionaire, but who gave you the millionaire? Who made you the millionaire? Kodesh Baruch Hu. When it comes to asking Kodesh Baruch Hu, you have to daven like a poor man comes and he's asking at the door for a handout. V'shelo tir'eh alav or teira'eh alav kemasa or mevakesh lipater mimenu. The Shemona Esrei Chalila v'chas should never appear as if it's a yoke on you and you can't wait to get rid of it, to finish it off. That's not the way you daven Shemona Esrei. That's considered to be a bizayon. And it's showing that it's complete unawareness of what you're doing at the time. Okay. Mishnah Berurah says on that one, he says, Hu inyan echad. What's the lomar? Sheyomra benachas. When you say the words of Shemona Esrei, you say them calmly, not in a rushed manner. B'lashon tachnunim, in a supplicating way, as if somebody who is asking for mercy, have mercy on me. V'yasim el libo she'ein biyad shum nivra malach o mazel o kochav lemal'os she'loso ki im b'ritzono yizborach. There is nothing in the world, no malach, no constellation, no star that can fulfill your requests. Ki im b'ritzono yizborach. Listen to those words. Only if Hashem so wills. What he's saying here is a very important point. He's saying, don't think that you're going to get your request directly from him. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It cannot come such a distance from the highest spiritual realm that cannot be described. It's just called the infinite, the Ein Sof. It cannot come from him to you directly. There's got to be a bridge. There's got to be a medium through which it goes. Like we spoke about the Aleph base. The Aleph base opens up the channels so that the energy can come down. So here, the Mishnah Berurah is telling us it's got to come down through a meteor. It's got to be either a malach, a kochav, a star, a constellation. They are the ones who deliver. And this is why you can understand now how people over the centuries, over the years, thousands of years, were idol worshippers. Because they would pray to those constellations, to those mazolos, to those stars, to the malachim. It's very easy to make that mistake. But he's telling us here that they are only a medium. They are not the end. And therefore you never pray to them. You pray only to Hashem. Hashem knows how to send it to you. He will use his shlichim. But we never address our tefillos to any mediums, only to the Ein Sof. Only to Ein Sof. Okay, with that we'll end today.